It is Monday, which means it is time for the Waiver Wire show, week 3 of fantasy basketball. It's been a ride. That schedule, it's been a bit of a killer for me. I know that. Feels like I've had a lot of players wasted on certain days and then nowhere near enough players on other days. I'm hoping it settles down. But yeah, at the moment, results are okay. But we're here to talk about Waiver Wire targets for week 3. Welcome to Stuff It, a fantasy basketball podcast, part of the Old Man Squad, brought to you by FanDuel and FanTrax. Do go and subscribe to the Old Man Squad YouTube channel and find us on the audio platforms. Go and download, set an auto download. That's what I do. It just means you're downloading. It just means you're helping. So please go and do that. Follow me at AdamKing91, at Dan Bespris, at Old Man Squad, at Noah Rubin22, at NBA G Wiz, at Thunder Dan. Thunder Dan? What's Dan? Oh, look, he's up. I don't write his down too often. At Rotomancer. We're all there. You know the deal. Let's get straight into the waiver wire action. And now, this guy's probably not on a lot of waiver wires, but look, according to Yahoo, he potentially is still available in some leagues somehow. And I really just want to talk about him because of the season that he's having. That's Ryan Rollins from the Milwaukee Bucks. So you can see last week, the rank for the season and the week was the same. Now we actually have a difference. So Ryan Rollins is the 8th ranked player over the last week and the 20th ranked player for the season. And he's got a clearer pathway to minutes than we thought, or a longer pathway. Let's say longer. Kevin Porter Jr. doing his recovery, sort of rehab, get back into the game shape, injured his knee, meniscus injury, so he is going to undergo a surgical procedure. They've said it's a minimum or looking at 4 weeks. I would say that is bare minimum. We're potentially looking at 5 to 6 weeks. By then, Ryan Rollins will have been the starting point guard for 2 months. And who knows what the mindset will be then. Do they keep him as the starter? Do they play them alongside each other? I don't know. But for now, just make sure that Ryan Rollins isn't somehow available. I really hope that's not the case. You can see his numbers there over the last week, 24.5 points, shooting 64% from the field, 88 from the line. Now, those field goal numbers, they're not going to stick. Absolutely not. But he's getting assists, 5.5 assists, 2.3 steals. He's not turning the ball over a lot. 2.2, obviously a career high, but he's doing so much more that we can just completely ignore those turnovers. So make sure he is rostered. Top 20 player at the moment. He's not going to be a top 20 player, but if he holds onto this starting spot, there's no reason to think he can't be a standard league player for the rest of the season. All right, let's go to the next player on my list. It's Ryan Dunn from the Phoenix Suns. Never been a big fan of Ryan Dunn, but he's started the season quite well. The scoring is always up and down. You can see here over the last week, he has been shooting the ball quite well, 52.7% from the field, 11.5 points. He could then have a week where he shoots 38%, so just be aware of that if you are taking a chance on him. But that's not really why you roster him. You roster him because he gets rebounds, he gets defensive stats, and he's a starter. So he's playing a meaningful role on this Suns team that is looking better. They've won 2 in a row now. They beat the Spurs today. And if you look at his last 2 games, so in a win over Utah, and I mean, playing Utah, he had 13 and 10 with 2 steals. Today over the Spurs, in the win over the Spurs, he had 17 and 5, 3 threes with a steal. So he can get you some perimeter scoring. He's basically had at least 1 3-pointer in every game this season. The rebounds are sort of fluctuating a little bit, and obviously the return of Mark Williams impacts that. But it's some blocks, it's some steals. It's just sort of a bit of everything that he does. So I think for a guy that's going to play 28 plus minutes most nights on a team that isn't loaded with talent, he makes sense as someone that you want to have a look at. All right, on to the next player, and that is from the Lakers, Jake LaRavia now started the season a little quietly, unsurprising, playing for a new team, adjusting to life with Luka and Austin Reeves and, well, LeBron, obviously not on the court yet, but just being around LeBron James, I would imagine, is something you need to acclimatize yourself to. But he's looked pretty good the last little bit. The return of Luka Doncic in the win over Miami, on paper, it hurts him a bit, but statistically, it didn't. And he played a lot of minutes here. So in that win, 25 points, which he had a 27-point game only 2 games earlier. So the scoring is looking really good. He also had 8 rebounds, 3 assists, 4 steals, and 2 threes. You can see there he's the 44th ranked player over the last week, 104th for the season. And those averages over that last week stretch: 17 points, 1.7 threes, 5.1 rebounds, 2.6 assists, 1.4 steals, shooting 68 from the field. Again, and you'll see that as a theme with a few of the guys on this list. When they're shooting the ball well, their scoring goes up, their threes go up, their time on the court usually goes up, which means that their other stats go up. So it is all reliant on that shooting, but he's basically playing, 30 minutes a night, 28 to 30. So I think he's probably one of their better options. It's good to see him finally getting a crack at sort of a permanent starting role. He's been in and out of rotations and lineups over the past few years. So he looks really good, and I think you just have to go and add him. At the moment, when LeBron comes back, we probably have to reevaluate. But, yeah, I don't mind picking him up in most leagues at the moment. All right, let's go to the next player. Now, this one is probably the most unappealing waiver wire target of all time, Mike Conley. Even just looking at him, reading through his numbers, I get a bit bored. But he's the 47th ranked player over the last week. So a top 50 player, you have to consider him. 9.3 points, 5.3 assists, 3.3 rebounds, 1.7 steals, 1.7 threes, 1.3 turnovers. And unlike a few of the names on this list, he is only shooting 34% from the field. Now, he is not an efficient scorer of the basketball, but he's better than 34%. So if he can push that back up to 40, 41, maybe the points come up to 11 or 12 points with 2 threes, 5.5 assists, 1.5 steals. And the minutes are there at the moment because Anthony Edwards is out for at least another week or two. Mike Conley has now played basically 29 to 30 minutes in each of the last 2 games, at least 25 in each of the last 4. Assists, steals, some threes. So he's very limited to what he will bring you, but as long as he's playing starter type minutes, then I think he's worth just grabbing at least until Edwards is back, and then he probably just moves back to the waiver wire. On to our 5th player, I want to say. Now, this guy was on the list last week, but I'm bringing him back. Josh Minott. Now, I think when we talked about him last week, from memory, he had just moved into the starting lineup. I'm sure it's 4 games he's been in there now. So 4 games. So, yes, I think he had been in there for 1 game. Since then, 3 more games, 3 more starts. The minutes are weird. And this is, if you have Minott, you're just going to have to get used to this. The minutes are going to be he played 19 minutes in the last game, 22 the game before that, 33 the game before that, 28 the game before that. So the minutes are up and down. Boston is going to be wildly inconsistent this season. They'll trot out players. Whoever's hot will stay on the court. So, but as long as he's starting, as long as he's playing 20 plus, which I think he will, even in that 19-minute performance, which was a loss to Houston, he had 10.6 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, and 2 threes. And he also shooting the ball very poorly. You can see there 38.2% from the field, averaging 9.5 points, 9.5 rebounds, 1.5 steals, 0.8 blocks, and 1.3 threes. So he's another guy, a little bit like a Ryan Dunn, who can get you some defensive stats, He'll have the occasional offensive outburst, but generally speaking, you're looking at 10, 11, 12 points a game. A decent rebounder, and unlike Ryan Dunn, they need him to rebound because they don't have a good rebounding center. So Minott, if he's still available, again, he probably shouldn't be, but it is a situation where the numbers don't necessarily jump off the page. And so if people are scrolling through waiver wires, they're not going to, if they sort by points, he's not going to be at the top. If they sort by steals, he'll sort of be near the top, but people's eyes tend to gravitate towards that points column. And someone that's shooting 38% and only averaging 9.5 points, he's not really going to get everyone's attention. But I do like what he's been doing in the fact that he's started 4 games now. Let's see what happens over the next week to 2 weeks, and then we reevaluate. Okay, before we move on to the next player, I will remind you that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Head over there, sportsbook.fanduel.com. All of the odds for the season. I was just going through the regular season wins, having a look at the San Antonio Spurs. So I was curious about them. They're now sitting at 46.5 wins for the season. They lost their first game today to Phoenix. That doesn't concern me at all. I would I go over or under 46.5? The West is tight, so I might still go. I might go under just, but I think once De'Aaron Fox comes back, I might change my mind depending on what they look like. But yeah, you can still get them at 46.5, or if you're looking at some of the poorer teams, let's call them the poorer teams, the Brooklyn Nets are sitting at 16.5 wins for the season, and honestly, I might take the under because they are terrible. I just don't think they want to win. Utah are sort of settling into what we expected, which is pretty bad as well. 21.5 wins for them. So lots of odds. Head over to sportsbook.fanduel.com and get those wagers on. Quentin Jackson from the Indiana Pacers. I feel like we had this exact same situation last season for a period of time. The Pacers have no one at the moment. So why not? Why not Quentin Jackson? He is... he started the last 2 games. Does that mean he continues to start? I have no idea. That last performance is obviously the one that's going to catch the eye of managers everywhere. 31 minutes, 25 points, 10 assists, 3 steals, 6 rebounds, 3 threes, 62% from the field. Prior to that, he had a 15-point performance, 4 assists, 1 steal. Before that was 8, and then 4 points before that. So he's obviously ramping things up as the injuries also ramp up. He's not a guaranteed ad. Ray J. Dennis has had some pretty good games as well. Mac McClung was playing well, and then he was out of the rotation. So it really is a bit of a crapshoot in Indiana at the moment. But yeah, starting 2 games in a row, they won their last game against the Pacers with him going off. So pretty good chance he starts at least the next game, and we just take it from there. So if he's available, which he would be available in quite a few leagues, I don't mind giving him a bit of a look. All right, on to the next player. Now, he may not be available. I threw him in here anyway, just because he's been playing really well. Jaime Jaquez from the Heat. No Tyler Hero, no Norm Powell. So the return of Norm Powell, which could come as soon as tomorrow or today, if we're talking Monday, will impact Jaquez. But he was fantastic against the Lakers. He was the reason they stayed in this game. Finished with 31 points, 8 rebounds and 4 assists. Now he's not doing a lot on the defensive end. He doesn't have a block this season. He has 5 steals through 6 games. So there's not a lot there. This is a situation where it's purely he's shooting the ball well, so he's getting minutes. He's had 31 points, 28 points, 17 points, 17 points. And he doesn't shoot a lot of threes. He's only hit 2 threes all season. So while that efficiency isn't going to stick at 58%, he will be able to maintain some sort of efficiency because he doesn't shoot a lot of threes. A lot of his his points come at the basket, and he's a decent rebounder. He's a decent passer, as you can see there. The assists, he's averaging 5 over the last week. He has 4, 6, 5, 5, 6 over the last 5 games. So he's coming off the bench, but he's really anchoring that second unit and closing. I mean, he closed today. He also closed their last game, which was a loss to the Spurs. So while he isn't starting, he is viewed as potentially part of that closing lineup. Now, obviously, again, Norm Powell returning might change things up, but I think he's worth picking up. And this might only be, you might get 2 games out of him. I added him at the start of last week, and I got 2 good games and 1 pretty bad game. So you take the good with the bad with Jaime Jaquez. And let's go to the final name on this list, and it is another somewhat unattractive one. Terance Mann he's not from the Hornets, is he? I need to change that. Terance Mann from the Brooklyn Nets. I've got the right photo. I just don't have the right team. Yeah, I'm not going to change it now. It's the last slide. He's been pretty good for them. I mean, they're rookies. They have a lot of rookies, but a lot of them just aren't playable at the moment. Terance Mann he's a bit of a veteran. We've seen him have small periods of value throughout his time in primarily with the Clippers, but then last season with the Hawks. His last 3 games, he's scored in double digits in each of those. You can see his averages there over the last week. 16.3 points, 5.3 rebounds, 3.3 assists, 1.3 steals, 1.3 threes, shooting 69% from the field. Now, that is not going to stick, obviously. But the Nets have nothing to play for here. His minutes seem to be increasing as they realise that a lot of their rookies just can't be on the court for significant periods of time. So he is one that's, I mean, I guess you call him a last resort kind of thing, because we know that there's not a ton of upside. But if they're just going to throw 30 minutes a night at him, he's going to get some points. He'll get some assists. He'll get you some steals as well from time to time, and maybe 1.2 threes. So I think there's a little bit there for Terance Mann. I do think eventually they go with the rookies a bit more, but at the moment they need to at least look like they're trying, don't they? I mean, they've had 6 consecutive losses, 3 of those are blowouts. So, I mean, you could argue they're not trying already, but I think they need to give the image of trying, and that means getting Terance Mann on the floor for at least another month to 2 months. So if you're desperate, give Terance Mann a look. All right, and that brings us to the end of the waiver wire show. It was just a quick one, 20 minutes, 8 players. Hopefully a couple of those guys are available in your league. There's obviously a lot of other players available as well. But, there's some names that jumped out at me when I was going through some rankings and looking at all sorts of data, as I always do on a Sunday night when I'm evaluating my matchups. Remember to subscribe to the Old Man Squad YouTube channel. Go and follow me and Dan and all of the guys here who are contributing. We've got lots of exciting things coming up this season and even looking ahead to next season. So pretty excited about what's over the horizon. I'll be back next week with the Waiver Wire show. I will have my dual mailbag shows coming up later in the week, and then the nightly recap on the weekend. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. I'm Adam King. This has been Stuff It, a fantasy basketball podcast. We're done.